Welcome to the Authority File, the academic library podcast from Choice. Choice is a publishing division of the ACRL and the publisher of Choice Reviews and CC Advisor. This episode is brought to you by Rakuten OverDrive. I'm Bill Mickey, the host of the podcast and the editorial director at Choice, and for this 4-episode series, I'm joined by Lindsey Levinsohn, an account manager at OverDrive. OverDrive, which was acquired by a Japanese internet services company Rakuten in 2015 for $410 million, is a distributor of ebooks and audiobooks to libraries. They've got a huge presence in the U.S. public library market, claiming 93% penetration, and have been expanding quickly into the academic library market as well. Accordingly, they've got a sizable collection of trade books, but they're growing e- and audiobook content in academic categories too. Not that the academic titles are solely what makes OverDrive's book content appropriate for an academic setting, and that's what Lindsey and I talk about during this series, the changing nature of academic collections. There are a wide variety of factors that are contributing to the evolution of the collection, but in this series, Lindsey and I talk about how and why ebooks are fitting into the contemporary academic library collection, how that's impacting collection development, and digital book lending models. In this third episode, Lindsey and I discuss the publisher's perspective on the ebook market, including metrics that get passed back to the publisher, lending terms, and where the library fits into an increasingly disintermediated digital content world. All right, so let's talk about the publisher side of things a little bit. And I'm wondering, in terms of the publisher terms, particularly between trade and academic style titles, are there differences between the two, or how do the terms work really?
The terms are really not that much different. We have a lot of different sales models from all publishers, and some are more suited to academic, while others tend to be used by more trade publishers. And the publishers have the option to opt into any or all of the options that we have. We have a philosophy here that more is more. It's better to have, if a publisher opts into all available sales models, they can capture, the fullest possible share of the market for each institution, because each institution sort of leverages the various sales models the best way that they can maximize the budget.
Yep. That's interesting. So OverDrive kind of has its own set of sales models, because I was kind of assuming that the publishers would be the driver of that, and they would come to you with like their own terms, basically. But it sounds like OverDrive, as sort of like the middle person between the publisher and the end user, influences the actual lending terms, I suppose.
So we have some standard types of lending models, and the publishers then can opt into those. And I would say it's pretty standard across all vendors. They're just licensing lending models, and the publishers just then sort of opt into the ones that they want to make their content available in.
Okay. Can you give me a sense of the range of models that OverDrive provides?
We have a couple of different models. The one copy, one user model is like a physical collection.
Yeah.
You're going to own it indefinitely in your collection, one copy to one user. You can buy multiple copies if you want. Metered access are titles that can be checked out by one person at a time, and then they will expire after a determined set. It will meter out. Sometimes it's a set number of months. Sometimes it's a number of checkouts. Some are by both. And then cost per circ is a great model, I think, for academic institutions, because you're only paying when users borrow titles. So you could add a large collection of cost per circ titles, and a user isn't going to know any different when they check it out. But the library is then only paying per circulation. So if they're not really quite sure if a title is going to circulate, they're not making any upfront investment in adding it to their site. And then we do have simultaneous use plans for some publishers that want to offer for a set price their titles in simultaneous use. We recently added magazines as one of those options. A lot of audiobook publishers have their plans in simultaneous use.
Okay. Do you find that any of those models are particularly popular among academic libraries, or is it just kind of a mix?
I think it's a mix.
Yeah.
I think it depends upon the type of content, whether you're talking about trade or academic. I think it just depends upon their collection development strategy.
Yeah. Do you find it's budget driven or is it patron driven?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think that cost per cert gives you a little bit more of that patron driven
Hmm.
um, type of access. Obviously, the one copy, one user is better because it doesn't expire from your collection.
Right.
So that, and then the simultaneous use, whatever they can get in the unlimited use is better for them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, clearly, OverDrive is really well established in sort of the trade book world, and I'm wondering, and clearly growing your academic title list, and
Mhm.
very curious to hear more insight into how OverDrive is growing its academic title selection, and how much of a priority that is, with sort of within the context of this idea that actually academic libraries are very interested in having popular titles available to their
Mhm.
patrons. But on the academic side of things, what's your strategy there?
So we've continued to see a growing demand for academic content, and we've dedicated more effort and resources into pursuing that academic content.
Yep.
Particularly with even international customers, English language trade content that require access to higher ed and academic content. We offer for academic publishers a sales channel that is mostly new customers.
Hmm.
So we've seen wonderful success in quality editions from suppliers like Taylor and Francis, Springer Nature, Oxford University Press, who've been really pleased with the results that they are getting for their initial delivery of titles.
Great. And then similar to, I guess, what you're providing to your library clients, what are the metrics that publishers like to see, in terms of reporting that you provide back to them?
Yeah, so they get access to sales data through our supplier portal, and they can see what institutions purchase what titles, format, how many copies. They can see all of that data in real time. In specific reader analytics, we don't really give that data out because it is protected, but they're able to see kind of their sales, how they're doing, maybe what types of colleges they're selling more content in. All that data is available to
Okay.
them, but they don't have access to any sort of personal data on actual users.
Right. Okay. So I'm just going back to what you were talking about earlier. I'm wondering, in terms of making academic titles available, obviously you guys also count public libraries as a big market for
Mhm,
you.
mhm.
Are you seeing any academic style content being adopted on the public library side too, or is this sort of like a two-way street for you guys?
I think some public libraries do purchase academic content. I think it just depends
Yeah.
upon what their initiatives are, what other types of resources they have, whether they have databases that provide that type of content. But I think some do. There are university presses that have really great popular titles
Right.
that may lean a little bit more academic, but something that they may want in their collection.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay. So, in the sort of decentralized, intermediated world that the internet has brought about, how can libraries make sure users and patrons know that the resources they're accessing are resources that are only available to them because the library provides them? In other words, how does a service like OverDrive help make sure the library is clearly that intermediary or provider of that? A lot of times, as we talk to librarians, there's some concern around, does the patron even know that they're accessing resources from the library itself, because the discovery layer or whatever it is, or the ease of access, is actually diminishing the brand, so to speak, impact of the library, and making the access is so invisible now that the patron may not even know that the library is the one behind the scenes here providing that stuff.
Sure. Well, when we develop the library site, we make it known that it is that library. It's branded to their specifications, so it's
Hmm.
the college logo, the colors. It's prominent, and in that development process, there is the custom authentication set up. So the library chooses how they want to authenticate, whether it's easy proxy or federated or direct ILS. And so users are not able to actually access the content, check it out, place a hold, make a recommendation unless they are signed in using what the college sets up for them.
You just heard from OverDrive's Lindsey Levinsohn. This concludes the third of our four-part series on the changing nature of the academic library collection. This episode was brought to you by Rakuten OverDrive. Be sure to join us for the final episode where we'll talk more about lending models, the broader ebook aggregator market, and the different use models of ebooks. Find all of the episodes of The Authority File on your favorite podcast app or on our website, choice360.org. Just click on the librarianship dropdown. On choice360.org, you'll also find information on Choice's entire product platform, including Choice Reviews, CC Advisor, Choice Webinars, resources for college libraries, our white papers, and a whole lot more. A great way to keep up with the Authority File is to join the Choice Authority File Facebook group, which you can access via the Choice Reviews Facebook page. As a member of the group, you can give us feedback, suggest podcast participants, chat with other listeners, and submit new topic ideas. Sponsorship and advertising for the Authority File podcast are handled by Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino. And all of our episodes are produced by Choice's digital media specialist, Mark Dirks. Post-production duties for this episode were handled by Choice's editorial intern, Sabrina Koffer. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.